Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another chat I'm having on the pod. I'm Chad Bruckner. I'm excited to bring you the chat I'm having today with a guy I think is just really eclectic and interesting. His journey is not linear whatsoever. So that's why I was excited to have him on and just have a conversation so you can hear his journey, his insights. Raja Sampathi. Raja is fascinating. He came from corporate America. He was in this big consulting enterprise industry, and really was struggling to balance his professional and personal life. So as a result of that, burnout, drinking, all the stuff that we all do when we're not performing optimally, and we're kind of, it's a cry for help internally. And so Raja left corporate America, started his own business, got into mindfulness and breath work and meditation, and now goes around as a coach and a consultant helping executives, just like on the job he was doing before, balance themselves out. So he's filling a gap, solving a problem that needs to be solved big time. And just a fascinating guy. He's also a divorce coach for men, having experienced his own divorce and his lessons learned. Digging into the pain that it is and acknowledging that it is painful, and developing practices and modalities to work through it, and to not waste that pain, to use it as a teaching moment, learning lessons, and to a fuel for growth. So fascinating guy. He's also a comedian. Like he does, I was Googling Raja, and he has videos online of him doing stand-up shows. So I end up watching one for like 10 minutes and I'm just enamored with him. So fascinating guy. Connect with him on his website, rajasampathi.com. I'll put it in the description, and I hope you enjoy this chat with Raja. We talk pretty much about all things men and life and the challenges of being a man, and how us, Raja and I, as coaches, are coming in and filling that gap and helping men thrive and survive. So I hope you enjoy it. Take care.
Hey, my brother, how you doing? Welcome back. Thanks for being here with me, man. I know we're kind of new friends on this journey of helping men and helping people and coaching people. But man, you and I connected just a very short time ago and had this amazing conversation, man. And I just was like, dude, we got to do a podcast where we're long form. We're talking about all the good you're doing, and because it's amazing. So first, man, like, who are you? What you're all about? What's your mission? And then we can get into all the good stuff, the detail stuff.
Absolutely, no, Chad. Thank you so much. I agree. I mean, it was like some comment on my one of my posts, and I DM'd you. It's like, hey, we got to chat, and you're like, of course. And then you get on a call, and like 4 days later, we're chatting, and I think it was just a half-an-hour call was supposed to be, and I think we definitely exceeded our, uh, initial meet, and then you're like, hey, you got to come on the podcast. So thank you so much. Appreciate.
Isn't that the best relationships, right? It's like you meet the energy, it hits, and it's like, man, we got to work together.
Right, right. No, and I appreciate what you're doing in your space with the coaching too. So yeah, hi everybody for Chat's listeners. My name is Raja Sampathi. I'm based here in Austin, Texas. I'm originally from India. I moved here 20 years ago for grad school. I finished grad school, got the proper uh, consulting job at Deloitte, which made my parents, Indian parents, very happy. And then in 2019, I seem to have everything going on for me in life, uh, except relationships, health, and general happiness. So basic shit that everybody needs. I had the money, and I was like, "What gives?" Right? And that's when I started my first foray into mindfulness, as you will say. That went into doing a 10-day silent vipassana retreat, which was one of the toughest things I'd ever done in my life. Chad, I think I told you about this when we
Yeah.
when we met, and I was like, "What the heck is this? Why am I suffering so much?" And that's something I realized, that I was kind of empty inside. Like I had everything, the shiny car, high-rise apartment, etc., etc. But I don't know, I was not just complete in a way. And then I followed it up with plant medicine, which is the mother of all plant medicines, called ayahuasca. 2022 pandemic hit. I was here, no partner, no dog, no plants. And I was like, oh shit, I can like meditate more. I'm just going deeper and deeper into my practice. And then this even though the world outside me is crumbling, it's my peace and my this thing are just getting better. All of a sudden, my mother and sister, who I didn't have the greatest of relationships with, they started changing. It wasn't them, it was me. I was able to see the beauty in them. My life turned around, all that because I decided to transform internally.
Mm.
And in 2021 was when started bringing this transformation external. I ran a brand called Calm Corporate for 3 years, which was bringing mindfulness back into the corporate world, which I was a part of. And about 3 months ago, sitting in some of the medicine ceremonies in Peru, I got this message that, hey, I need to do what I'm doing in a much deeper sense. So I came back and I started talking to men. For some reason, it was like an energy thing, Chad. I just started talking to, I don't know, 15, 20 men. And just on LinkedIn, like, hey, you want to talk? Da, da, da. And, we're chatting. And I just realized there's so much suffering among men. It's like these guys are telling me things which they've never spoken to their partners, their brothers and sisters, their close friends. Um, and they're just unhappy. And that's how I decided my new brand called Meandering Sapien, which was focused on healing in general and wanted to talk about healing about men. But now I'm talking about transformation of men, actually helping men who are doing well in life, who are just great people, but just not doing well within because they're just so tired of taking care of everybody else that they're not taking care of themselves.
So, dude, I love it, man. I love it. So when you grew up in India.
Correct.
I grew up in the U.S. So
Yeah.
hearing you talk, it's like the same struggles for so many. So it makes me think that like 8 billion people in the world, obviously each culture is going to present different challenges and experiences, but generally like the human journey, no matter what society or culture you're in, it's like that pressure to have things, to accumulate things, to have social status. It's like, I guess, no matter what society you're in, it's the same pressures, because you grow up and no matter where, you hear the same people say like, I had these good things and I had these material things, but it wasn't enough. And it's like, why, society speaking, why do so many of us are told to not focus on the good things or the things that really mean something, and we're told to go get a college degree, go get a secure job, have that nice car, get a house with a secured loan, not with an arm or anything like that, like do all these safe secure things. Everything is safe secure. And then we do it, and it's like, well, I don't feel safe. I don't feel secure. It's like, why? Is it emotions? I guess emotions, right?
It is definitely emotions, but it also a lot of that depends from one of my experiences, my personal experience, and talking to a lot of men. It's also childhood, right? It's also childhood. As men, sometimes we are like, hey, you got to be responsible. Like you said, yeah, get the degree, get this thing, get whatever. It's like you're just taught to be responsible for everybody else, which is a good thing, right? I want, I, I mean, I hope it doesn't get me in trouble with the other lady viewers, but it's not about chauvinism. I love my uh, protective and provider self as a man. I fucking love it.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. I want to evolve into my highest provider and protector self. While, this is the crazy part, which kind of like goes down, while providing and protecting for my own emotional needs, which I've not done.
Yeah. You need both to make it to the end game, right? It's like you need both. You're right.
Right.
And how many of us, I mean, most of us aren't like, oh, I want to have all these things and provide and take care and be all these things. And I also want to make it to the end. So I have to learn how to just do a little bit at a time, a little bit of this. And it's like, we don't think that way.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. So
It's
a lot
good,
of
man.
it, yeah. If I can add to a question, a lot of it starts with the childhood trauma, right? It's like, unfortunately, we have not had the kind of father figures that we have deserved. They've been good people, without a doubt. I mean, they've had their own suffering and they've had their own challenges, and I'm sure that they meant well. But we haven't seen those, we've definitely seen strong macho men to what avail who are suffering within themselves internally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But we've not seen, you know, as father figures or even as uncles or whatever. I was never close to my grandfathers, who I heard both of them were just freaking amazing people. I'd love to have grown under them, but my dad, bless his soul, was a great guy. He was an excellent provider and protector. I mean, like, yeah, could he have been more loving, kinding, and care to us, and more necessarily himself? I mean, if he started with himself, then like, yeah, of course he'd have done it to more for us, but he wasn't. So
Do
I think, go ahead.
do you feel like back then, I'm sorry to cut you off. I just realized I
No,
cut you off.
no, no.
But do you feel like back then they felt like they could only do one or the other? Like, I don't have the bandwidth or
Yeah,
the time to be what you want and also to provide. Or since my primary job is to provide, they can never get to the point. And they're right. They're right that primary job is to provide, but they can never get to the point where a little further where they're making less excuses and why I can do all these things and really look at life from a holistic approach and a 360 approach where I can be a provider and not burn the candle both ends and still be the father. Like back then, we didn't know what we didn't know back then. So I guess we have to give them that grace and that understanding.
true that, and I think you just alluded to that a few minutes ago. Society, and it's still happening,
Yeah.
right? It,
Yeah.
it's still happening. So, it's the image of it's the image of this strong man in society that is still being portrayed across different ads and different, things. And it's like, oh, if you are weak, and again, oh gosh, I'm crossing all boundaries in your podcast. If you're weak, you're like, oh, you're gay. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. These crazy correlations that people make. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, it's like, I'm like, I mean, this is offensive to both like straight men and gay men. Like,
Yeah.
gays
Yeah.
are strong too, and they do their own thing, and they're also excellent providers and protectors. And now you're like accusing somebody of wearing their emotions on their sleeve and being vulnerable and being, you know, wanting to have a conversation, and now you're being traded as weak. Now
That's a
you're
great
like,
point.
okay, shit, I don't. Who wants to be weak? No man wants to be weak. Yeah,
Yeah. That's a good point because I remember when I was in the military at 17 or 18 and being an emotional guy, I had like leaders mentor me, and they weren't wrong to say this, but they would say like, "Hey, you got to stop wearing your emotions on your sleeve. You got to
yeah,
stop wearing your emotions on your sleeve." And I never knew what that meant. I was just being me, I was like, oh. So I started to kind of like morph into somebody that you don't recognize at times, just to fit in or assimilate. Again, nothing wrong. Nobody did anything wrong in any of this situation. But what if we could challenge a little further and say, "Hey, look, I know you're an emotional, passionate person. Let's help find a way for you can use that to your advantage as a man. In this world that we want to beat you down for being angry or you're making these eyes. Well, maybe you're not angry. Like my wife always says, she goes, you make these eyes when you're trying to communicate. I said, babe, I'm just passionate about the subject. Maybe I am angry, but maybe I'm not angry. And we make these judgments about men. And if we do it consistently, men will start to withdraw and they won't want to share that strength gift that they are giving society because it's not just about them. You're right. They're there like it's what they're wired and brought up to take care of others around them too. And if we nurture them in a good way and empower them, they will be able to do that and kind of push through some of that negativity.
truly so, man. Truly
Yeah.
so.
So
Truly,
is that like with like with your mission now you're doing like helping men like find that sweet spot? Because dude, that is an amazing mission.
it is. It is. I think I. This is also interesting, right? So I want to approach this, Chad, with compassion. I want to approach this with compassion. Like, I wrote a post last week or the week before, and I just said, "Men, you're not alone." And you don't know how many men just pretty much copy pasted the same thing and let's put it on my comments. Men, you're not alone. Men, you're not alone. Men, you're not alone. And I think that's the thing that I want to build, is the camaraderie around men, saying that, hey, let's go shoot some pool. Let's get a beer together. And what then and also further leads is, let's talk about our emotions. Let's talk about what we are feeling. Let's talk about what's happening in our lives.
Mm.
It's so easy for women to drop their guard and do that with each other.
Yeah, it's so true. So true. Man, yeah. And because most of the feelings, one, you said we're not alone in that post, which is amazing that people, well, not many people put that, because we all can relate to each other. And it's like, if we could just get their own barriers of opening this thing a little more,
Right, right.
that literally is the key. That's the locking key, is our mouths, just open, share. You'd be surprised the exact same person you're fearing is the person that's going like, yeah, I'm going through the same thing. Wow, man. Yeah. And most of it, if we share, like if I imagine if you and me are sitting around having a beer, having a cup of coffee, just connecting for an hour, and you're sharing your, what's bothering you, I'm sharing stuff I'm going through. Raja, I don't know, man, but I have a feeling we're going to leave that hour-long meeting like feeling so much better about ourselves and our life.
True. Intentionally bring it together, right? I think this is something that men lack is like, hey, let's get together to just do shit together. Because at least with me as a single guy, it's almost like, oh yeah, it's like always chasing tail, like where's my next date or what's happening. I'm not, in a way, I mean, I could be accused of that too. I'm not making time to like just hang around with guy friends just for the heck of it. So I want to share a story with you, Chad. Um, this is about men hanging out with men and supporting men. So a couple of weeks ago, my friend Derek, his girlfriend Kate, she was graduating. She's 40 and she's a single mom, and it was a pretty big deal that she was graduating her undergrad. So we had like this party for her in a local club here in Austin. I don't even go out much, but it was like, okay, it's a special deal. So we're gonna go out. We're gonna hang out. We're gonna be there for Kate. So we go out. Then another one of my buddies is there. Travis is Derek's roommate, and I hadn't seen Travis for a while. And for some reason, we were like, Travis and I, like, we just started chatting. We'd like dance. We'd come back. It was like an open area. We'd be chatting a little, have a little bit of a drink. It wasn't about chasing women at all. I don't know if he even spoke to any women. There was also a big group of us with this thing. The whole night we hung out, we danced, whatever, blah blah blah. Called it a day. And the next day we both are texting each other. Dude, that was so much bloody fun.
Man, it just shows you the power of friendship, man. Old
Yeah,
friends, dude, what a story. So you could have had the greatest looking female, right? Let's say an absolute 11 out of 10 walk in there in that moment in front of you and Travis. Dude, I bet you, from when you tell me about this story, you might have looked, but like that, you're not going to just stop your interaction with Travis and go
yeah,
chase this girl. Wow.
no, no.
Yeah.
I think this is what I wanna bring about, right? This is the kind of camaraderie that I want to bring about, where we are comfortable in our own skin, where men are comfortable when they're reclaiming their sovereignty.
Yeah, that's a great point. So,
Yeah,
people flock to you when you're confident, when you know who you are. You don't need to chase those kind of things. But right, we become, man, as men, we have just, I think about the military, and it's so conditioned in it's a drinking culture.
right,
Because you're young single guys, you're in the military, you're drinking, chasing women, things like that. But you realize just how much of, I remember being around a couple guys who were really, really spiritual at that time. So they're 19, 20, really spiritual. They had a girlfriend back home, and they didn't fall to some of those stuff in the culture like I was doing. And I look back at that now thinking like, wow, they're where I'm at now in my 40s, but they had this understanding of who they are, and and everybody's path is different. So I think that's the thing
right,
is, and we need to support each other wherever we're at in our journey. But you're right; it's like finding a way for us to understand and look in the mirror and say, whether I have this pretty woman or not, whether I have this nice car or not, whether I have $1 million or not, doesn't diminish who I am as a man.
right.
Doesn't diminish who I am as a man, and that's what we got to get back to, because we think if I don't have all those things, I'm not a good man, and that's just not true. It's not true at all.
Society again, Chad. Society again. All these boxes that we've been like slotted into as these strong macho men, men don't cry, men are not emotional, men are not blah blah blah. And then like, oh, we still need you to provide and protect, right?
Right, right.
I mean, I don't
They
think
want it
it's,
all.
yeah, I wouldn't say it's emasculation, in a way, but like, okay, and how do I express myself? Where do I go from here? Where are my emotional needs? Who am I talking to?
Yeah, it's a great, like, so my son, he's 14. So I'm always talking to him, like really annoying him about this kind of stuff. But I'm always in his ear, trying to coach, mentor, just be as much as I can while I have him on a consistent basis before he goes into the world. And it's funny, like some of the conversations he's having with his friends, I guess it's a great thing. But, we're talking about this whole masculinity culture, this alpha male culture. And I said, son, I was in the military, I was a cop, I was an athlete growing up, but I don't consider myself an alpha male. I'm
Yeah.
not the loudest one in the room. I'm not here to assert my dominance on anybody. It doesn't mean I can't be those things, and it doesn't mean I won't be those things, and it doesn't mean I'm afraid to be those things. But that's not what I want to be. That's not how I'm wired. And I think our society has done a real bad job of telling all these young boys that you have to be this assertive alpha lion in the prairie, lone wolf to get ahead. That's strength. People will rally behind you. That's called a bully. That's not true. So my son goes, "Hey, Dad, do you know what a sigma male is?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I know what a sigma male is." He goes, "I think that's what I am. I'm somebody who can be a good follower when necessary. I can also take the reins when necessary. I can be in the shadows, and then when there's injustice, I can step forward and speak up for what." I was like, "But I don't need to always be the loudest one." And he's 14, and I'm like, "All right, Lucas, like, wow, son, that's a great place to be." So so maybe the young generation is getting. We're making podcasts like this that are all over YouTube now. There isn't just one type of man to be. There's be you, whoever that is.
Right. Right. So I want to ask you something. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not a father, or I have kids. How do you see yourself? I know you embody these values that we're talking about, right? We're connected. We Let's think. How do you see yourself as the father that you are now versus your father? Like, you're in the middle, right? It's your son
Yeah.
and your father. It's like, how do you see yourself as the man who has done all this work on himself and
That's a great question.
growing up? Yeah.
Um, like it's funny. I remember my dad growing up. He would tell me, if you're better father and better husband than me, then I did my job. That was kind of the standard. And I didn't think that was a bad. I didn't take it as a negative thing. So I tried to just be a little bit better than my dad. But then growing up and hitting all the challenges of having of children and hitting financial different seasons of financial hardships, or going through work events, or having all these great moments. You just it humbled me to realize, like, whoa, I might not even be as good as my dad. So I got
Mm,
to step it up, and so the difference is, I think, for my dad and maybe that generation is, they didn't go to all your sports games. They didn't, throw the ball around with you in the side yard every day. That wasn't their job. Their job was to provide, put food on the table. And my dad was great at that. And he also was good at spending time with me. But I still felt like I needed a little bit more nurturing. And this is in all hindsight, growing up now and this having all this reflection. You don't think about this. I didn't think about this as a kid, but in hindsight, knowing who I am now, what I probably would have needed to have a little bit more success, or mitigate some of the negative things that happened in my life, probably would have started in that childhood time. If my late single digits, early double digits, I had a little bit more mentorship, a little bit more foot in the butt, a little bit more hand holding at times, a little bit more encouragement or empowerment. So that's kind of what I think about now. So that's the gap I try to fill with my kids, right or wrong. I'm saying, hey, I'm going to be the dad my dad was to you guys, nurturing, loving, providing for you. But also, I want to empower you a little bit more. I want to be there for you when you're anxious a little bit differently. I want to show up a little bit more intently in these moments that I think you might be struggling, just from what I see, and
mm,
not just say, I don't know, they're teenage angst, and turn a blind eye, and kind of be a little bit more curious and dig in, like, hey, what's going on? And maybe I can fill that gap. Maybe not. Maybe, I don't know, but that's kind of how I approach, right now being a dad compared to my dad.
wow. Wow. And this is something that you said, amazing, Chad, at the beginning of our conversation, is like, you grew up here in America, I grew up in India. It's fascinating that even across cultures, this issue of men, in a way, being disenfranchised.
Right, 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 Right.
It's common across cultures.
It doesn't matter where you live. What you could be in a village or some big city. If your father is disenfranchised, you're right. You're not going to get the most attentive man to bring your
Right.
dude. You're so right. You're so right, man. Yeah.
Right. It's
Yeah.
insane how these problems are like permeating across cultures and like and what we can do about it.
Wow, man. I mean, you just took this mega issue and you boiled it down into like the most simplistic of things right out of like, ancient times is like these little babies are little living organisms.
Right.
They're going to grow. And in the beginning, maybe when they're 0 to 3 months, no big deal. But like at some point, they're going to require a lot of attention and care. It's very simple. You're either going to give it to them and they're going to develop and do these amazing things, or you're not and they're going to be average, or you're going to beat them down and they're going to be below average. I mean, you're right how you boil these things down.
Yeah.
And they're so big. They're so big, but they're so simple too. Yeah.
And
so how have you found like working cross culture, growing up in India, now working in America? Like you probably are more able to relate better to cross cultures than people who are like, yeah, well, you don't know, like like I know as a white guy growing up in the United States, I'm aware. I know that I can't tell somebody that grew up in another country. I can say I visited a country, but I'm self-aware maybe from traveling and knowing my own limitations. I know that. But so I'm not going to be able to connect with certain people in the coaching space, or maybe some women say, "Hey, I'd rather work with a female than a male." Like, how has that your background? How has that led you to working with people?
right. I think in a way it's so this is beautiful. I have to go back always to my management consulting days, and I love to use this answer in a podcast or Q&A. It's like it depends. Right. No, I think in a way, Chad, it's the fact whether it is Indian or American or Indian American is the fact that you have to realize internally that, like I did for me, something's got to give. You cannot continue to live life in the mediocre way that you are living. You're waking up, brushing your teeth, kids jump on you, go to work, come back, have a couple of drinks, call it a day. No, that's not a meaningful existence, in my opinion. You're just masking what is happening around with just the existence of day-to-day life. And when I'm coaching people, I think the first thing I want to say is like, and I push them. I am not easy. I push them. I'm like, somebody gives me like, I've seen enough of this. Like, oh, everything's rosy, blah, blah, blah. Like, no. I'm going to push you to give me like a real bloody answer. What is happening in your life? Tell me about your childhood. Tell me about your childhood. 9 out of 10 times, it's not a happy childhood. That's for most of us, and that's fine. And this is the crazy part. Even the people with happy childhood face difficulties later in life.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm like, okay, tell me about your childhood. Tell me what's happening. And I think, and you touched upon this, the expectations of society. It's like who's taking care of Raja Sampathi? Who's taking care of this thing? And I'm not asking people to even help. I'm not asking people to help. So the first thing I do is like, the biggest thing I do to encourage people is to start developing, like with my courses, there's 3 things, right? So I have a meditation. I mean, for people to start off, I have a meditation, I have a gratitude course, and I have a self-compassion course. Those are like the 3 cornerstones of my transformation, which I share with people through my coaching. The courses are online. And I'm like, the first thing I want you to do is to really sit with yourself and let the thoughts come. And it's crazy how many people have never done that in their lives.
Wow. You're right, though. Being silent with yourself still.
Yeah.
It's almost like you can't avoid then what comes in. It's almost people want to avoid the thoughts that come in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're just running away, and they're freaking dead.
Yeah, and if you don't have accountability, how can you develop yourself? How can you work?
Right.
You probably can't work with them. You can't help them.
Right.
Wow. You said you're not easy to work with. Like, do you have a story or example where somebody came to you and said, "Hey, I really want to develop. I want to grow. I want to do this," and they're kind of running through the problems or triaging, and you never end up working together because you realize that they weren't in it for the right reason, or they thought they were, but maybe when you highlighted some of these things or asked some questions in depth, they came to the conclusion like, man, maybe I'm not ready for this, or not yet.
Yeah. No, I don't want to. I mean, I'd want to revise that. I wouldn't say I want easy to work with. I'm a tough taskmaster. Let's say that. I'm definitely going to push you to get not discomfortable, but at the edge of just about an uncomfortable, so that you can start opening up, start owning up to your feelings, start owning up to what you're thinking, start owning up to this thing. And when that happens, you're right. Some people don't come back because it's too scary. Because
Yeah.
for the first time in their lives, I mean, these are people in their 30s and 40s, very accomplished, financially successful, all that good stuff. But in the first time in their lives, they have been asked to relook at their childhood. The first time in their lives, they've been asked to look at the relationship the men had relationship with their fathers,
Hmm.
right? Like my father was a great guy. Like he was, he had his own mental health challenges, but I mean, he was not physically abusive, but he would say shit that I was like, I look back and how did that even come out of your mouth to your son?
Right, right. I know. Because he probably heard that from his dad or somebody, somebody dumped
Possibly,
on him. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, or
man.
even his mom. Like again with upbringing, it just depends on how it happens, and like even with his mom's, like he heard this with his mom. So I think I think the part of this transformational journey, Chad, is to help people walk through this road with compassion. And that's why I like to say, men, you're not alone.
Uh,
We've all been there. We've all been there. We're going to hold each other's hands and we're going to walk forward. We might slip back, but we've got each other's back.
yeah, man. It's like lay your weapon down, right? Put your weapons
Yeah,
down, lock them
yeah,
up.
yeah.
Yeah, put the guns away.
Right,
Just come on, man. Come on, Yeah.
right.
So do you do like what's the style coaching? Do you do it online? Do you prefer it in person? Do you do a hybrid? Like, what's your preference of working with people?
Right. So I was doing some one-on-one work, and at this point, because I've kind of double-clicked on men and I'm focusing on it, I'm going back to the drawing board a little. So I really want to create more than anything, Chad. I want to create a community. I want to create an online community. I don't think it really exists right now in a way that I want to do it for men in the corporate world. There's a lot of like online spiritual stuff, and I'm very spiritual, and I bring some of those elements in it, but I don't want to scare people away based on like their religious beliefs and backgrounds, because happiness is everybody's birthright.
Yeah,
So I want to create that community which is just non-judgmental. Like, you want to say om, you wanna, I don't care, but you're there for each other. So I'm trying to build a hybrid. You're right. So I'm trying to build a hybrid which is community, group coaching every week, and then I'm going to see what I want to do with the one-on-ones, which I've been doing so far. So
it's
that's
great.
that's my idea.
Yeah, that's great. I want to get into the group coaching too, because you can do more. You can help more people. Like I'm doing one-on-one now, and it's tough because I can't duplicate myself. I can't.
Sure.
It just takes that's it's a trade off of my time. I love working with people one-on-one. It's my favorite, but it's the one I can't duplicate. I can only do so much, so I think I'm going to have to resort to more group coaching going forward. But yeah, I think that's a great plan you have going forward, man. I mean, I didn't come from corporate to space. I came from the police, military spaces,
Yeah.
so I can't relate to what corporate America is like. But I imagine how when you're in corporate America and it's such a bottom line driven,
Mm,
existence that I just imagine, man, it is taking names and eating people alive. And if you even no matter how good you were 5 years ago, if you're not helping the company meet their quotas or bottom line, like you know. 5 years ago was a long time ago, so I imagine they need more support in that regard.
yeah, you're a number. You're a number. I think that's another thing is like, it's like all these pressures that men are facing, especially in high performing roles. Hey, I've got to hit bottom line. I've got to be a good father. I've got to be a good husband. I've got to be a good son. The caretakers of this thing. Like, it's a lot that men are facing.
Man, I took my breath away just saying all that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, wow, man. Yeah, and then you work, and then you can end up working in a culture great company, but it could be a culture where it's not valued. The people aren't valued. You could have a
Right.
narcissistic boss. Um, then you could have a sick child or a sick family member, and it's like you're adding all of this in their cup. You're just pouring it in, pouring it in. And man, like you have all these tools now, and I do too. I've learned ways to unload that cup. Most men don't have it, and man, we need to be there for them to help them
Right.
offload that cup.
Right. Right.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. And you tell me, I want a question. Like, obviously, I'm working on the corporate side, but you're on the law enforcement side, and on this thing, I know you do coaching and speeches and workshops on that side. What do you think could be the receptivity of what you and I are talking about now, going into that space and like, hey, men,
It's still, yeah, it's still low, still low.
mm,
I think what I think is happening right now is the buy-in is getting there. It's like the early adopters, the innovators, um, which in this space I consider myself to be part of the innovator. Like I don't know, less than 5%, less than 3% that are really sometimes a nobody around you, seemingly helping you, going into this community is trying to make headway, trying to find the early adopters, and then there's like I don't know, 15-18% of people are like the first ones that kind of jump in and say, I'll give this a shot. I think that's where we're at right now. Then you have the majority, which is like 30 some percent of people. Once you get that, then you start to tilt the scale over 50%. And then everyone's like, well, this is normal. You're not doing this. You don't have a therapist. Whoa, what's wrong with you? Right. Like
right,
that peer pressure will come because it's socially acceptable. I think so. I think we're in like this early adopter phase where like there's 25% of cop soldiers that are like, yeah, all right, this is actually not only important stuff to help me when I'm down. Embracing mental and emotional health, wellness generally can be a way to succeed, can be a way to have longevity. Oh wow, I never knew that. Like you're getting that right now. So I think in the next 2 years we're gonna have even more of the people, the naysayers, who are kind of still sitting there with the arms crossed. I'm like, oh my god, you guys are getting crazy. You're doing that too, bro. You're part of that too. At some point they're going to be kind of standing there like in the minority of the group, and I think that's when it's really going to change. I think that's when corporate America. That's when I think that's so many industries are going to have to kind of stop spending money or saying we care, making social media posts or making these cute little ad campaigns, and we're actually going to be doing things and moving the needle in ways and developing programs and solutions that people say, oh no, we care about our people. We care about the mental emotional health. Otherwise, if we don't care like that, we're not going to have the business structure that we think that we do have. Now, we can go down the rabbit hole, brother, and go down like the few control people that control the top will always change the rules so they can benefit. We can go down that role too, possibly, so we don't have to treat people like humans. But that's where I think we're going, man. I think from that perspective in the military police space, I think it will change. I think we're realizing that the recruitment and retention issue is directly tied to that. So if
mhm.
we treat each other better, we will get those numbers. They'll shoot back up, and we'll get back to this country that is able to defend itself like we used to be able to do. So that's my answer to that. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful, man.
So what's the next 24 months look like for you? Like in the like staying in Austin, you're gonna plan to do anything different, travel, any speaking opportunities or anything that you think can really, bring men together, any events you're working on?
At this point, I would say yes to everything, but I'm kind of also like really brand new and just like pivoting what I did with Meandering Sapien and putting this together to talk about it. So yeah, it's a yes to all of them. So I'm not staying in Austin though. I've been in Austin for like 13 years now, so I think I need to get out of here. So there's a there's a yoga teacher. I mean, there's a spiritual teacher called Ram Das who says yogis and water get stale after they stay in a place for too long. So I'm fixing to head out of here. Hoping to be based out of Mexico City beginning of next year. So that's my plan. Uh, we'll do that, and then. But I'm just excited about this whole space of like men supporting men, men transforming men. Me helping men in a positive way become better fathers, husbands, sons, just better men,
Yeah.
just better men. And I think if it's speeches, if it's workshop, if it's coaching, well, coaching and community is what I do. And then outside of that, bringing into other these things. And yes, I will do all of those and above. anything and above, just to create like a better world where
You
men.
mentioned yogi, and I love that term. Like, what is yeah? I've done yoga maybe a couple times, but like I can
Yeah,
tell it's really important to you. What real quick, like walk what is yoga meant to you? How has it helped you? I'm just curious to like learn from people.
sure. No, I've been doing yoga for a while. I'm taking a bit of a break right now. I'm kind of doing uh, more meditation. So yoga, in its actual term from the East, from India, means union. So it's actually the union of the soul, of the spirit back into God. And the yoga that we, and there's different kinds of yoga. The yoga that we do mostly in the West, which is Lululemon yoga, as I say, is a it's a physical form of yoga. So you are doing that, but even then, that's like because you're not, I wouldn't say manipulating, you're letting your breath, which is prana in yoga, move through your body with the asana, which is the physical thing. And that is the one, the awareness and the focus of that is getting you closer and closer to the divine, right? So you don't necessarily need physical yoga to do this. There's meditation, there's other forms of yoga, there's breath work. Physical yoga is very effective because it also obviously, you need as the yogis say, you need a very strong body to achieve enlightenment. You just don't want to be like weak and fluffy and all that. So that's another thing. So you want
I,
to be, yeah, you want to be able to do that. So that's a part of the yoga. But like I said, I am a huge proponent of meditation. So, and if viewers are listening, and I'll send you the link, they can just sign up for like my meditation course. It's free. It's free to
yeah,
download. It's free to start working on
yeah.
right.
What's that like for you? How's that work for you?
Oh, it's amazing. I would not be who I am without my meditation practices. I would not be
Wow.
who I am without my first 2019. I guess it's everything. Yes, I started yoga in 2017, 2016, and that's been incredibly helpful. I think that's kind of brought me a lot of peace and centeredness. But meditation was the one that changed the trajectory of my healing completely. Completely. To be able to reflect on myself with so much silence, it's amazing.
Mhm. What's the process like for you? Would you mind sharing a little bit about like what your routine is and everybody has, where they like to do it at, outside, inside? Is there any special part of it that you're willing to share? I love learning about that.
Yeah, so meditation, I would always recommend people do it inside. So I started even yoga as a practice that the ancient Indians never recommended it to do outside because
Hmm.
you want to be focused on yourself. So you don't want the wind or the noise or like some insect or anything bothering you. Same thing with meditation. My recommendation is always to get it done first thing in the morning. Like most people like to work out early in the morning, which is great, right? So get it done first thing in the morning, whereas you're still fresh a lot because a lot of shit has not been put into your head from the external world. So you just sit there, you focus on, letting things go. You focus on bringing the good energy into yourself, and also uh, biochemically, the brain is just the most receptive to information as you wake up. So you sit down, you meditate, and then I think this is the thing, right? There's so many women who are deep into their spiritual and wellness practices, but men are just not doing it. But the crazy part is, I honestly think once men start doing it, the depth of changes, because we've not been as tuned as women are going to be way higher, way deeper,
Yeah. Wow.
way deeper.
That's going to affect so much because women tend to be more private. I feel like
Yeah,
where men are a little bit, I guess, by genetics or biological. I'm not sure. Like we're supposed to protect and keep safe, and so I think our reach is just a little farther. So if we can get ourselves dialed in, man, we can affect a lot of people around us, and really bring that positive stuff into our households.
right.
Then it's going to affect, the spouses, the kids, our friends, our neighbors. That people are like, hey, man, Raj is like I imagine there were moments you were super stressed, super anxious, super, all these negative emotions are not the most well about yourself, and then you see yourself now. Has there been a journey to that where like, man, to see yourself where you were and to see yourself now is like two different people?
Oh, I do, without a doubt. without a doubt. Ask people around you. That's the thing. And I say, is meditation working? And is this Dan Harris? He runs a 10% Happier app. And he says, is mindfulness working? Yes. If you're being less of an asshole to yourself and others, it is. Just ask people around you.
I like
And
that. Dan Harris, man, he got me into mindfulness actually way
he did.
back when he had his panic attack on air, and
Yeah, yeah,
then he got into it. Fascinating, fascinating.
yeah. So I think gosh, and this is, man, there's something about just being a strong, confident, yet affectionate and compassionate man.
Yeah, right. You can be both. You can be
You
both.
can't be both.
Yeah, like this is not crazy stuff.
It's not.
Yeah. And really, you probably expected to be both, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, people say like, "That's not me. I'm not touchy feely." I've had a lot of guys. I'm not touchy feely. Are you
Yeah.
not touchy feely? Like you when you lay in the field and you're getting ready to shoot a deer, and I see you have a tear come down your cheek because you just love being in the field hunting. Like that's passion to you. That's emotional. Like so you are touchy feely about something, and it's
Yeah.
just finding what that is and being able to tap into that more often. And it's like, oh, I'm more happy. I'm more
Yeah.
joyful. Less misery.
Yeah.
Possible. Possible.
Yeah. And I want to add something to that, Chad. It's like it's also among the spiritual community or whatever. It's like, you're vegetarian or you're this thing, and it's and you're right. These men's things are just not about, like I said, spiritual and sitting there and chanting home. It's about going hunting, right? It's about beers. It's about grilling. It's about barbecuing. It's everything. And then I want like the spiritual community to also understand that, hey, it's like, oh yeah, you're killing animals. I'm like, no, that is somebody else's bonding and that is somebody else's experience. You don't get to judge.
Right, right. I know, I know. I'm real faithful, man. But you're right. The judgment and even in faith communities is strong sometimes. It's
Yeah,
strong. Hmm.
yeah, you're not going to hell because you're not doing this. No, this is what you like to do. So please continue doing it. And hopefully that's making you a better person, right?
Yeah, right,
Yeah,
right, right. Yeah, or you're connecting more with the universe, or there's something about that experience that is drawing you closer to yourself and who you were born to be. I imagine if you're crying when you're hunting or you're crying doing something like that, there's a deeper purpose to that other than the people that just mount the heads and put them on the walls. I don't know. I don't. Maybe not. I'm not a big hunter, but
yeah,
that's probably a separate conversation for a separate day.
right.
Um, but you made me think about something that at my lowest probably was not probably definitely was when I was in my basement for maybe 18 months. And my basement's a great place. I'm down in it now. That's when I'm
Right.
doing the podcast. But so I do a lot of reflection and thinking down there. But I also know for myself, it's also a place that if I'm not careful, can be a place I hide and a place I don't come out of.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder how many men have their hiding places, have their places where they go and they don't want to be bothered.
Wow.
Maybe and it's a good thing, but maybe it's a bad thing. And we are not wired to sit in silence for too long. I think we can think about ourselves. That's a great thing. But man, we're supposed to do things. We're supposed to take action. And if we're not taking action or we have more misery and we're less joyful, maybe we're not taking enough action in our life. So I think that could be good to encourage other men, like get out and do more things. Like you said, that's great.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that. That was deep. I think
Deep,
that,
man. We're going deep today.
yeah, deep. No, we're the gloves are off. Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been amazing. I mean, just to like learn from you and like actually like bring two different ideas together from the East and the West and
Yeah.
think about it from the concept of men and, and how men need to just fucking let it go and say, I'm going to change, come out and start working on themselves, start helping others, start meditating, start spending
Yeah.
some time with themselves meaningfully.
Dude, so I'm
Sure.
reading a book right now called Drop the Rock.
Okay.
And I'll put it in the description. Somebody gifted it to me. And it's called Drop the Rock: How to Remove Character Defects. And wow, man, it's like every man in the world should be reading this. Every person probably, but especially men. I think how much burdens, how much shame we all carry around. You got turned down for a job, or somebody cut you off in traffic, and you didn't even know you did something wrong. Like how much shame when we get dumped on throughout the day. Our wife yells at us, or our paycheck's less than we thought it was. And if we could just learn to shed this stuff, let stuff roll off of us, man, so we can like And that's what I want to learn how to do better. Because I admit, when I go through a failure or negative, I'm getting better at it. But there, I used to, man, I would let that negative come, and instead of like punching it out of the way or
Mhm.
spraying myself with oil and let it like bounce off, I would like, hey, come over my way. Here, sit right here. Sit right here. I'll carry you around with me. Oh, more failure? Here, sit right here. I'm a loser. I know. I keep getting failure. Here,
Wow.
sit right here. And I'll just carry it around like this, you know? That's how I was. I didn't know it. You know, I didn't, nobody told me that. Nobody pointed it out to me. But that was the subconscious stuff that was going on in my life, much of my 30s. And it was like, it came to a head at the end right when I turned 40. It was like, bam, this is not sustainable. You have to find a new way. And learning about all this stuff. Whoa, I'm actually losing weight because not only am I working out physically, I'm losing weight, but I'm dropping emotional weight. I am shedding some of this stuff. Wow, I'm not a loser. Wow, I'm actually a good person. Well, I've done amazing things in my career. Bad things have happened to me at the same time. That's true. I've also done bad things. That's true, but I'm also a good person. And it's like learning to shed that and keep moving, you know, ducking and diving and keep moving through life and adding value to people and not hurting people along the way. It's a journey, bro. It's a journey. Hopefully, we get some people coming your way that are like, man, I need to be coached. I need a different way of being coached. I want a different type of coach. And Raja is gonna. I need to message him, call him, go on his website, find out more about him. That's the
Thank you,
plan.
man.
This is the place I like to be. If we could have these meaningful conversations more often,
Yeah,
one on one with people, knowing that you're getting something out of it, like I'm getting something out of it, like we're gonna
yeah,
be better versions of ourselves as soon as we hit the end button.
yeah,
Um, to me, that's the best thing. It's what it's all about to me.
yeah.
Like in the police and military space, we're like helpers. We're the official helpers. Everybody knows. Oh, a fireman helps people. Police
Sure.
can help people. Should help people. Those are that every society knows that. We identify that. But we don't identify the people who aren't in those spaces who are still helping people at high levels, who are still sacrificing and giving emotionally of themselves, like therapists, like coaches. They're helpers too, big
Mhm.
time. We need more of them. So, you know, wherever you go, helping men or bringing men together or helping people heal, dude, you're doing something that's so important, and you're really moving the needle. Like I imagine when you go to the heavens and you go to the pearly gates and you're knocking on the door and you're asking to be let in, you know, it's going to be, hold on, Raja. Hold on one sec. Give me 1 second. Oh,
Uh,
oh, I got you right here. Oh, yeah, you got a big star next to your name. Hey, welcome. Come on in.
oh, thank you, man.
Like
Love you,
to
buddy.
me, that's how I think about life right now. So I want that. I don't want to be in purgatory or hell. So and because that stuff's forever, man. So like we're moving the needle in good ways.
Thank you so much, buddy.
Keep
So
up the good work, buddy. Yep. Be well, man.
we'll be
Talk
in
to you
touch.
soon.
Talk
Thank
soon.
you for being a part of this community. We have to stick together and encourage each other. It's through the empowerment and support of one another that we can help each other overcome whatever season we're in, weather the storms. Please go to my website, motivate-change.com, and there you can buy the book. You can also get the book directly off Amazon, but you can also see some of the other coaching services, speaking services, and other things that we offer to really help people develop into the best people that we can be. Thank you for being a part of this community. Together we can do it.